Welcome to Snowdrop Adventures, guys. We're here in Laurel Valley, Louisiana. And what brings us to this spot is that my grandfather actually grew up here. He was born here in 1938 on this plantation. And his father actually worked the fields here during the sugar cane. When they were making a lot of sugar cane, they had their own mill and all that stuff. But between, I believe, 1898 and 1924 was the golden years for this plantation. In 1924, the mill actually shut down and they stopped making, stopped producing sugar. In 1965, Hurricane Betsy came through and put the mill out of commission completely. So the mill never ran after 1965. Now here in Laurel Valley, what we're going to do now is we're going to go down to the plantation itself. The actual location of all the houses, where my grandfather lived, where they lived, and they were kind of indentured servants here. In that time that they were here, they worked the land, but they were able to live here, and they got some money and shares from the crops themselves. Now behind me, what we have is a general store of Laurel Valley. This is where people would always come and get their goods and everything they needed. Now this is not the original store that they built in the 1800s. This store was actually built in 1903, and then they moved it and restored it in the 80s. That one over there is the original store that they had, that they converted to a home. So the general store did move. Things have changed over time, and this is what we have here. And we have tractors, we have plows, we have everything that they used to use here, here in Laurel Valley. When it was a working, operating sugar plantation. So this train right here is actually the exact same train that my grandfather put me on back in 1991. Right here, I stood right here as a baby. And that's how long this train has been here. This train's been here for a while. They did move it along site, but this train was one of the focal points to the festival that they have here. They have the Laurel Valley Festival in the fall and the springtime, and that's where we were at that moment. Look at these old plows. All right, you ready? So right here we have a lot of old plows that they used. These were definitely used with horse-drawn plows that we have here. But you see how many they have. This was a complete working plantation. The plantation still actually makes sugar, just not as much as it used to. The mill, once the mill took off, they actually put a lot more effort into processing sugar than actually growing the sugar. Here in Laurel Valley, it was a bustling sugar plantation, and they had many tractors and many items that they used. And this is just a little collection of everything that they had here. These tractors were the ones that you would crank up in the front, just like this. Those were actually pretty dangerous. And here's another crank tractor right here. Another one. These are all old tractors. You notice most of the wheels are like this one. They're all metal. It's a case. That's an old tractor. They still make case tractors. Those red ones that you see. Oh wow. Now this is a sugar cane shucker. They basically put the sugar cane in there and it rips it up. Sugar cane's kind of like a bamboo type of material almost. Here's another crank. There's an old John Deere tractor right here. And this one is a Alice Hammers. It's Alice Hammers. Alice Chalmers. I'm not sure big with tractors, guys, but I'm sure most of you that are watching this video probably know about more tractors than I do. Oh wow, they got the fall festival and the spring festival sign up there right now too. So this is the back of the general store right here. This general store was actually rebuilt, I think, in 1904. I was reading 1902. And then it was actually moved to this location in the 80s, and they restored it. So if you guys know anything about jukeboxes, this is like one of the top of the lines at the time. We have a Wurlitzer right here. This thing is awesome, just looking at it out here. And you can see this is actually a photo of the plantation here. So it looks like they put a photo of the plantation there. And let's see what kind of songs they got in here. They got Black Velvet. They got The Fireman by George Strait. Always and Forever, Heat Wave, Soul Sister, Super Soul Sister in here. I kind of let you know the date that the last time they probably used it. Oh my gosh, this is legit right here. Holy crap, this is it. This is legit. This is legit. I'm so happy right now. You have no clue. Are you ready? Okay. This right here is called a puro. This is made out of a hollowed out cypress log. And my dad had one when he was growing up. And an old Cajun man made it for him. And if you look how the log comes and how it splits down the middle, they use the natural curves in the wood to create these little divots in the side. That way it wouldn't be so topsy-turvy. They were topsy-turvy. I mean, these boats were not stable, but this is what the Cajuns used to fish, hunt alligators. This is right here, this little bitty piece of boat. This boat right here, well those aren't made, I mean, those are plywood ones you can see on the sides. But these ones right here, or this one is the only real piro I see in here right now. This little bitty, and it's a really cool part of history, you know, seeing a little piro like that made out of an old cypress log. Because I've never seen one in person. I've only seen them and only heard stories about them. But here's a little freaking piro right here, man. It's awesome. Here we are at the Laurel Valley Plantation. And over here, we have the houses where the workers would stay. Now, the houses over here are actually the same houses that my grandfather stayed in when he was a little boy back in 1938. Now, before that time, the plantation changed hands a couple times. The plantation was actually, I believe, gifted in the 1700s to a Thibodeaux. I believe it was Etienne Thibodeaux. Was the first person to have the location, and I believe it was given to him by the French. So right here, these are the old homes where the farmers and the indentured servants, and of course before that the slaves would stay. So here in Laurel Valley at the plantation, there was a little war called the Civil War that happened. And they were no longer able to use, slaves. They were no longer to use slaves. So what they did is that they had a little program that they came up with, and this was, for all different races: whites, blacks, Native Americans, Creole folk alike. And what they would do is they'd hire these folks to live and work the lands. And these are the buildings that they would live in and raise their families in at that time. Now, most of these homes were split down the middle with two. You had a wall going right down the middle with your chimney right there in the middle. So the family would share the chimney. Some of them didn't have a wall, and you would just have a one-room cabin, one family on one side, the other family on the other side. They would share these homes, and a lot of people in the Louisiana community are very close. And a lot of that has to do with the history of how they were raised, how they lived, and how they worked. So guys, I've been showing you a lot of these old homes that we have here, a lot of these indentured servants, slave quarters, what have you. And that's what they were used for. That's what these buildings were. They went through generations. They were used before the Civil War to house the slaves, and after that, they had the indentured servants that they would hire to work the land. And this house right here, from my understanding, actually was the house where my grandfather was raised, born, and this is where it all started. This is where our story kind of started here in Louisiana, down here in the swamp, between the sugarcane fields and the pelicans. But this is it. This is Laurel Valley, Louisiana. From my understanding, these buildings are used quite a bit in movies and and different things. They've actually cleaned up the area pretty nice here in Laurel Valley. And I have not actually been here since I think I was maybe 7 years old. And but here we are in Laurel Valley, and this is the home of my grandfather. I appreciate you guys coming out here into Laurel Valley with me in Louisiana. And, you know, like I said, I don't think I would ever come here if my grandfather didn't grow up here and his family didn't kind of start their roots here. Now, the plantation's gone through a lot of changes from what my mom was just telling me, is that this fence wasn't here. A lot of the buildings weren't like they were. And apparently that's what they do for movies. A lot of people come out here and film movies, and I can see that. And so, you know, it's a good thing. You know, the community's making money off of their history. And, you know, but, you know, it kind of detracts from the history a little bit. It kind of distracts a little bit from the history when you come in and, you know, kind of take something that was historical and, you know, kind of turn it into something of a Hollywood circus, you know. Then you get fences like this that weren't here, you know, and you can't go and visit, you know, the past of your relatives, basically. You know, like I can't go into the house that he was, you know, that he lived in, because it's all blocked off, because you got to pay a fee, and most people that pay a fee are the moviegoers. You know, but that's what Laurel Valley is now, and that's what I've kind of just, you know, it kind of just hit me, is that, you know, this place is gorgeous. It's got a lot of history to it, and I think it should be a lot more well preserved than kind of throwing it in a Hollywood film. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. I appreciate you guys joining us. Don't forget to click subscribe, click like, and join us for some more adventures.